what I'll say for anyone exploring a side hustle, work out why you're doing it. Is it just money? If it's just money, follow the advice I just mentioned. If it's just to explore a passion with a view of eventually maybe it turning into money and making money from it, yeah, go for it. What I would also say is just focus on your time management as well, and try not to, spread yourself too thin.
Black Income Creators Podcast. My name is Max, and today I've got Dominic with me. Dominic, if you could introduce yourself.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Dominic Hay. Online, I go by the name of So Ambitious Dom. In terms of background, I'm a commercial consultant. I am also a content creator, public speaker, business owner, and the list goes on. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. And just from that introduction, there's a couple of things that popped up. So why so ambitious? Why the name?
Yeah, it's interesting. I guess I've had that name now from a very long time ago. I've always been seen as quite ambitious. My friends would say, like, you're the first to do something, or you're the first to take a risk. You're the first to jump on a train, go out of London and buy an investment property. You're really ambitious. And one of my closest friends said, bro, like, no, honestly, you've inspired me. All of the risks you've taken, you're so ambitious. And then from there, it just led to, So Ambitious Dom. Also, I didn't want to actually have my name, my full government name on Instagram. I was, working in a permanent job, and I thought, it's probably best to not actually have my full name, just in case employers are, do their background check and see pictures of me partying or something, or anything incriminating potentially. So I said, I'll create an account called So Ambitious Dom. And it's just been that name from, many years ago. Yeah, it's been started now.
And then you said a commercial consultant. Can you explain what that is, please?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a commercial manager, which is essentially very similar to contract management, where you manage a contract through its contractual life cycle. You advise businesses on how they are, forming agreements with new, suppliers, or if you're working with a supplier, forming new contractual relationships with customers, and advising them on the business from a contractual perspective and financial perspective. So anything you can think of from contract, negotiating terms and conditions, advising on performance monitoring and performance measures, SLAs, KPIs, down to financial management, invoicing, purchase orders, billing, profit margin. Is a deal cash flow positive or is it cash flow negative? Everything from a financial project management perspective and the contract I manage. So I work with different cross-functional teams who regularly support me or feed information to me, and I lead on the management of a contract for its contractual life cycle. Now, I would say I'm more of a consultant now because I've set up my own company. I will try to win business independently. I will also work with other agencies and other consultancy brands who will subcontract work to myself as well via my company that's established. And I will provide contractual support and commercial management support on a consultancy basis.
Okay, got it. And I know you're doing this full time now. What were you doing before? Was that the day job before when you were employed?
Yeah, day job before. My last permanent role was 2018. I was working for a bank, and it was permanent job, salaried, PAYE, and it was a contract manager role that I was, performing. So responsibilities and duties very similar to what I do now. A lot of drafting of change requests and management of obligations and deliverables within a contract. What should happen when, who does what, when should this person get paid, has a milestone been met? So very similar to what I'm doing now, but just working for a company directly.
Okay. And in terms of So Ambitious Dom, can you tell me a little bit about what it is that people come to you for at the moment? So who are your typical clients and what do they come to you for?
So typically I get a lot of one-to-one calls that are booked, and usually it is I've hit like a plateau in my career, or a ceiling. I don't know what to do next. I'm interested in making the transition into consulting. I want to become a contractor, or I want to actually go out there and set up my own business and start winning, new work. I need to get some advice on how to do this. Or I get calls from early career professionals. They're probably 2 years into their career, and they are not sure about what route they want to go down, or they're still trying to figure out what they actually enjoy. I've spoken to a few graduates, but then a lot of 5-year plus career professionals who are just trying to work out what to do next. So I do a lot of one-to-one career coaching, and that's pretty much because of my content that I put out on TikTok. On TikTok, I've got a following that's just under 70,000, and it's grown really quickly. And what I found is that most people come to me for careers advice. It's probably 70% careers advice, 30% personal finance, roughly, give or take. If I do, 10 to 15 one-to-ones a month, on average, what will happen is probably about 10 of those would be mainly careers, and the 5 would be personal finance. And that's because of the content. But a lot of people who have been following me for a long time, they also know that, I'm an investor in real estate. I've got properties in the UK and abroad. So some people will ask me questions about, real estate. But there's influencers that are out there who their niche is real estate only. So yeah, what's happened is with my content pillars, where it's mainly focused on careers, how to improve your CV, how to get ahead as a consultant, most people are requesting one-to-one on coaching and career coaching, with a small percentage asking about how to maximize my income and make more, and how to invest, how to set up an investment account, how to get on the property ladder, and how to make as much money as possible in a 9-to-5 environment.
Okay. And how long typically would you be working with somebody? Let's say it's career advice or career coaching. How long does that normally take? Is it sort of like 6 to 10 weeks? Is it 6 months? What's your standard program time?
So what I would usually do is provide a one-to-one, which is usually an hour. And usually in that hour, it's quite easy to determine what the actual person needs. So what I would say is people come to me kind of like, you're to bring your car to a mechanic, and they're trying to work out what the problem is. And then they, plug in a machine and they do a diagnostic. And then they need to diagnose the problem when they see all of the fault codes and error codes. I'm a typical guy. I just love cars. Just the easiest analogy. So they come to me, I'm like the mechanic, and then I need to diagnose what the issue is, and then tell them what they should do and what they will need to do to fix their career and their life, essentially, from a career perspective or personal finance perspective, to get ahead, to earn more, to save more, start creating a budget, or to pivot from permanent to contractor, or how to get a promotion. And usually it's either 1 to 3 months, or you have someone who will say, I want you to mentor me, and I would appreciate if I could book 6 slots or 8 slots, and I will spread them out over a period of 6 months, as an example. So it really varies. Sometimes it's 2 calls. I've had a scenario where a young lady, she was already doing well, working for a great company. She was already in procurement, and she was doing a procurement role, but her title was project manager. And I was like, what you described is procurement, it is actually not project management. And she wanted to transition into becoming a procurement manager and landing a day rate role where she could make £500 to £600 a day inside IR35 or outside IR35. And we only had 2 calls because she already had 6 years experience roughly. And the next call was just to look at her CV. And then she actually applied for about 7 roles and she got 3 interviews, and then she converted to 2 offers. And then she was like, well, what one should I take? And she actually messaged me the next on Instagram. It went from emails and bookings and all these formalities to, thank you so much, just secured a role. So now she's got a role. She doesn't really need more support. But the next, call potentially would be, could you help me set up my company, or could you help me with finding an accountant? Because she's got a company already. But could you help me source a really good accountant or something like that? Or I've made 100 grand in the last year. How do I take dividends to start investing? Which is usually the next step. Once you're making cash flow, most people want to know, how do you multiply? How do you maximize your income? And that comes from it. So my calls are usually over a 3-month period or 6 months, but on the odd occasion, it could just be 2 calls.
Yeah, I think that you're right, because it's obvious that she was in a different space to the average person coming in. So she was already quite far ahead in terms of her change or transition into something else. And she just needed sort of maybe a little confidence boost around, am I on the right track, as opposed to that.
Yeah.
You mentioned property, and you said that, you'd bought outside of London kind of early days. I think, your friends, hence the name, so ambitious, Dom. And I just wondered, can you tell us a little bit about how that came about? So how did you suddenly think, I'm going to invest outside London? Because that's not usual, especially if you're a Londoner born and bred. Very few Londoners think outside of London.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I was born in South London, in Dulwich Hospital. But at 6 years old, I moved to Jamaica. So I haven't got any, what's the word? Like allegiance to an area in the UK. Like, I have to stay in South London. I have to live in Northwest London or East London, and I shouldn't move. Or why can I not go to the West Midlands? Why should I not venture out to, I don't know, Edinburgh? Why not? Like, I could care less about the area. If there's opportunity to make money and to build wealth, let's do it. So what happened was, I was living in Kingston at the time, and I wanted to buy a home. And I was like, okay, I'm really tired of renting. It's really frustrating. And I know that one of the easiest ways to build wealth is through real estate. And if you look at history and the data, history repeats itself. You hear things like, every 10 years, your property almost doubles in value. Over 90% of millionaires, they've got, investment in real estate. And I thought to myself, well, it's quite clear that there's opportunity in real estate. There's no smoke without fire. Let's go and do some more research. I did some due diligence into an area in 2015. When I say due diligence, I mean, I went on the council regeneration website for the area. What are they doing in the area? Looked at train stations, looked at if the HS2 would be development in that area. I went to the area, stayed in the hotel overnight, walked to the street that I was planning to buy in the day and in the evening, just to see if it was loud or rowdy, it was drunkards. Looked at, if there was a bookies nearby, a pub, just to kind of understand like the demographic and the type of people, if there's like a plaza, a supermarket close by. And I just assessed the schools, the catchment area. And then I did some, lengthy research. And then within 6 months in 2016, I, managed to secure a property. At the time I was 27 or 28, 27, I think. And I bought something that was the best decision. The property has now doubled in value. And it hasn't even been 10 years yet, because it's 2024. And that alone was beautiful, because I've done no work on the property. Since buying that property, I've invested in others where I've knocked down a wall, made a living room and dining room open plan, put in a steel beam, got a plaster in, new kitchen, brand new garden. So I've done developments and refurbishments. But that one that I bought in 2016, it was literally, I just bought it, didn't do anything with it. But it was an up and coming area where, you know, there's going to be a new school set up. There was a new, you know, shopping center that was put there, and it worked out to be a really good deal. So yeah, reason for real estate was there's only so many hours in a day. I can only work so many hours myself. Creating passive income made so much sense. Generational wealth is something that I wanted to build. Understood how trusts work and how wills work. And I thought, if I can, you know, get life insurance, invest in real estate, invest in, you know, a stocks and shares ISA, if I can do certain things, my children will inherit good money, and they'll be able to have something. Plus the property prices in London and the West Midlands, further up north, that, you know, it eventually will get to a place where it will be really hard for a 25-year-old to buy in London. Right now, the average price is 288k to 325,000 roughly for a property, and you're getting a flat with that, right? So
what, a one bedroom flat would that be?
Yeah, that's average. So right now, and I mean, average salary is 36k, something like that. So for me, when you compare where we are in 2024 to where the boomers were, and you do the actual calculations on what they were earning versus how much a property costs versus what Gen Zs will be earning in the workforce, and what millennials are earning versus house prices, there's a clear indication that I need to make a decision ASAP. And although capital appreciation won't be as quick as some areas in London, for obvious reasons, there's opportunities in Birmingham, Manchester, Liverpool, for capital appreciation, and also for good rental yield. So with all things into consideration, I just said, let me take the risk, jump on a train, go to an area I've never been before, and work from up there for a couple of months, which I did, and was back and forth on the train doing research. And it was, you know, a really good decision that I made. Really happy with the decision.
Thank you for that. And you did say something about having properties abroad, I'm assuming in Jamaica?
Yeah, your assumption is correct. Yeah. So, yeah, Jamaica. Correct.
And was that before?
I'm up in Jamaica.
Yeah, was it before the property in the UK, or which came first?
Yeah, it was after. It was after.
Oh, okay.
I was really, really young. When relatively young. I was in my 20s when I started investing, and it was, what I would say is things kind of took up really quick, where you go from early 20s. Well, I'm not all, but I was broke, living with mummy. I was contributing to the rent where I was living with my mum. I was giving her £500 every month as a contribution, and the rent was 950. So it wasn't hard, because she would do the food shop, she would pay the gas, electricity. So it wasn't actually hard. I was paying £500, and that was like, oh, this is a lot. Why do I do this? But then I actually left one role and went to another role, and I jumped like 15 to 20% roughly on my basic. I can't remember, it's years ago now. And also the company that I moved to gave me a bonus and all these other things. So I was able to buy a property, and then shortly after I started contracting, and contracting kind of changed the game for me. From a financial perspective.
It's interesting with contracting. So I've never had a permanent role. I've only been a contractor. So but then it does make it difficult when you're doing things like trying to apply for mortgages, because even though the day rate might be higher, they're looking at it and being like, yeah, but you could be out of work for 14 months. We don't know. Yeah. So sometimes some mortgage companies don't like contractors. They're like, yeah, that's all well and good, but I need to see, quite a lot of months of income, etc. So I think, so, and also people forget that they have to pay certain things themselves as a contractor. I mean, it's a little bit different now with inside and outside, but this was pre sort of 2017, 18, and there was no inside or outside. And people were like, you still have to pay your own taxes. You still have to, so that your day rate matters. But so have you ever had any issues around the mortgages, or has it been not an issue for you?
I've never had an issue. I've been quite blessed. And I've got about 4 mortgage brokers who I've worked with, and for different reasons. And one of my mortgage brokers, we call him the mortgage tailor. He's really smart, really switched on, and he understands everything about how assessments work, what they look for. And in my first year of contracting, without having a full year of account, as an example, I was able to get a mortgage. And it was looking at the contract assignment details, the length left on the contract. There had to be 6 months remaining in that contract. And they looked at my tax overview. They looked at my business account. They looked at my personal account, my pay slips, what I was paying myself, dividends, how much dividends I'm taking. They looked at everything. I mean, it's really, the process is, it's like they want your blood. But I had no issue. So thanks to my mortgage broker, that deal went over the line. And then the year after, no, not 2020, 2021, the same thing. Had no issue either. Had no issue. But they wanted to see more because I had a year worth of accounts. So they wanted to see how much profit, the company made, my current engagement, how long was left. But then one thing that was informed to me from my mortgage broker is that lenders also look at how long you've been a professional in that field. And I guess that maybe helps them determine what's the likelihood of you finding another contract. But that wasn't clearly expressed. But I do believe with a high degree of confidence, they look at how long you've been in your career. And where I've said, I started working as a contract manager in 2013. Prior to that, I was a paralegal working at Channel 5 in 2012. And then, 2020 and 2021, so 8 years plus. So what's the likelihood of me being able to get another role? It's higher than someone who's got 1 year under their belt. So yeah, I've never had an issue. A lot of contractors believe that it's impossible to get a mortgage, but most lenders, they want to care about, how much debt you're carrying, your credit cards, how much credit utilization are you're using, make sure that you pay your bills on time, your credit score, do you have a good credit standing? They want to know, where you currently live, what you do for work. So the same rules apply. If they believe that you can service that loan, they're happy to, give you a loan because that's how they make money, right?
They make their money, yeah. And I think what I'm hearing really is around, sorry, I think there's just a slight delay on my side, sorry. I was going to say, I think what I'm hearing is that people need to think about when they do certain things. So a lot of people, I think it's like, either you do it when you're in your PAYE job and then you've got the salary, you've got the sort of thing, or you wait maybe a year into doing something and then you've got, because some people aren't changing into something that they were doing as their PAYE, they're doing something completely different. So a mortgage company would look at it and say, you've been a yoga teacher, but for 6 months before that you were, working in a shop. Yep. There's no link. I can't link the two, and you've only got 6 clients. So I think there's something about timing when people go in for these investments.
Absolutely. I mean, timing is key. I always say to, the students or the early careers professionals that I, provide one-to-one coaching to, that, Rome wasn't built in a day. I have to remind people on TikTok that I am not 25. I'm 35 years old, and I let people know because I have a lot of young boys, for example. They will see also parts of my lifestyle and think, oh wow, like I should just become a contractor right now. It's like, hang on a minute. Like, I actually paid my dues. I became a contractor in 2019. So I was 30. I've only been contracting for 5 years now. I'm 35. So it wasn't, fresh out of uni, left the University of Greenwich And then 1 year under my belt, oh, time to make £650 a day or £750. It wasn't like that. You know, as they say, I don't want to use a bad word, but you have to eat poop, as they say, and go through the maybe making coffee, making tea, printing a bunch of documents at a scanner for hours. I've done all of these things. I've paid my dues. I remember working at Accenture and doing really good tasks and tasks that stretched me and taught me new things. But I also remember having to print thousands of pages at the scanner in Fenchurch Street in Plantation Place. And that was really boring activity.
What
I didn't want to do.
Name. Plantation Place.
Oh yeah, yeah. Funny that on the plantation. But yeah, so I've had to do all of these things and didn't want to do it. I've also had to network, spend hours after work, after 5, after my contracted hours, work till 7 p.m. I've also gone networking events I didn't want to go to, and rub shoulders with people and laugh at jokes that I just didn't find funny, but I'm building a rapport. And it's taking interest in things that I just don't know anything about, and then said, you know what, let me go and research these things so I can have a conversation again with this person, because clearly that's something they're interested in, and I'm going to be working with them for another year. So let me go and learn about, rugby. I don't play rugby. I ride a motorbike and I like golf. I like football. I like most sports. But rugby, I just didn't really grow up around it in the Caribbean. I didn't. But let me take an interest, because I'm going to be working with this person for a deal, on a deal which is going to be 6 months. And he's a nice guy, but I don't know anything about rugby. And he's always talking about rugby from the weekend. So as I tell people, like, there's a formula to these things. Rome wasn't built in a day. And very similar to working out, if you want to have a six-pack, you need to drink a lot of water. You need to have high proteins. You need to train 5 days a week, roughly. You need to do your cardio. You need to do resistance training. You need to hit. It's a formula for most things, and everything is figureoutable. There's a formula for doing well in the corporate world. There's a formula to getting a promotion. There's a formula to becoming a contractor and a successful contractor. There's a formula to running a business, which is marketing, sales, having a good team. There's a formula for everything. So once you understand the formula, that's when you should make that transition and then, go for the big bucks. But before then, work on the process, trust the process, do your reps, work out hard, and then eventually the results will start showing. It's not overnight.
No, it isn't. And you mentioned that, at one point you were living at, with your mum contributing nearly half the rent, that kind of stuff. And now I know you're living, in Hertfordshire. So there's been a transition. So who have been the people that sort of seen you through that journey, and how important has community been in that process?
Yeah, so God has been a major part of my journey and my success. When I was younger, in my 20s, I used to say, I'm self-made, it's all me. But no, definitely, there's definitely, many people have contributed to my success. My mom, obvious reasons. My mom encouraged me to study law. My mom wanted me to become a city lawyer. I discovered early that, interesting, but I'm not sure based on the hours that they work. My wife, I met my wife in 2015, and she met me. We met each other when I was making that transition from permanent to contractor as well. So that was quite interesting. And also when I was buying buying a property. So she definitely saw the risks that I was taking, which is 2 risks. One, using my money I've saved to start investing out of London, and then later on in London, and Greater London, Hertfordshire, whatever, and then also realizing that she's with someone who doesn't want to work in the same arrangement as her. where it's safe, and I didn't believe that a permanent role was safe anyway. And seeing me through the transition. Then my sister as well. My sister is amazing. My sister is she is like my rock. Like she's like my brethren. So we might not talk every day, but we get each other. Like, and what I mean by that is, okay, if there's a big problem, I call my sister. Actually, she's the only number I know off the top of my head, and I say that in like a jokey way, but it's the truth. I only know my sister's number off the top of my head, and if something was to go wrong, I call my wife and my sister, like literally, and then mummy, because my mum will panic and mummy gets in mummy mode. Unfortunately, obviously I haven't mentioned my dad. I don't have a relationship with my dad, that's just life, I guess. But yeah, the women in my family, they're amazing. And yeah, that's who I would say really support me, and always are like behind me, trying to push me ahead, say, yeah, keep going. And then, yeah, they benefit as well from the reward as well. They definitely benefit from the reward. And they're very fancy, so they like nice things. So
I think what you said about your wife being in a more stable situation work-wise, a lot of people think, oh, I'm an entrepreneur, I need to go and find another entrepreneur that will understand me and understand how I want to work. But actually, most relationships, you need like the steady Eddie person. You need that person, just so, because there's ups and downs and it's a roller coaster with an entrepreneur. It's not always going to be, and it's nice to have someone that's there that has a different,
definitely. I mean, I don't even think permanent steady Eddie. As I said, my wife and I, we got married last year, but we've been partners for a long time. And what I'll say is, I've seen her in permanent roles, and I've seen her being made redundant. I've seen her she didn't work last year at all, right? She had a year off, and it wasn't maternity, it was just a year off. And what's good is that I'm in a position where I can, I can support that, and it doesn't impact, some things, scale back a bit. But I mean, last year I still went on holiday like 4 times and, changed my car and still lived my life. But certain things were scaled back still. So what I say is, permanent roles, there's this whole idea that it is steady and all of that. But I think where my wife, maybe because she works in sales as well, it's the commission target. And if you don't hit targets, they're very quick to, let you go, or, restructure the team. And she's been a part of, the tech layoffs where, thousands of people were let off from Google and Salesforce and Microsoft and all these organizations. So she's been a part of that. So what I would say is, I actually find contracting safer than permanent. I've actually gone back to back contract over 5 years. I've lost a contract before, but then, I've also replaced it within a space of a week. So yeah, I do appreciate the fact that she's, permanent. But my wife right now, she's trying to cut down to 3 days a week, 4 days a week, with a view of eventually, she, being a housewife, which is one of her goals that I'm supporting her with now. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting the next few years.
Yeah, it will be an interesting journey. I think it's just that people have a certain view, don't they? And I think post-pandemic, there hasn't been as much security in the permanent job space. Maybe in the UK, whether you call it recession or whatever, I think there has been a shift, and people felt that since 2020, not maybe put a name to it. I mean, cost of living is one, but I mean, they've not really put a name to this sort of job security or insecurity, but it's definitely there. And I think, you feel it. I think it's something about having the partnership, though. At least there's like, you've got 2 of you to sort of have that, if one's not, in a good space and there's another that can pick it up.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. So that is what's beautiful. From, spend a lot of time talking about finances, but it's good having someone there for the emotional support as well. And yeah, I mean, it's good knowing that, you got someone through thick and thin and through ups and downs, so that is beautiful for sure. That is a beautiful thing. Yeah.
And I noticed that you had like a community that you sort of run or created or something like that. How does that work?
Yeah, so we've got the Careerguard.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to call it community.
Yeah. So I created with my co-founder the Careerguard, which is a newsletter that goes out every week. One actually went out today as well. And every Sunday a newsletter goes out. And then what we have is a premium version where you also get access to a group chat, which is a group chat where you can chat with other people who are career professionals. You also have access to internship opportunities, and we'll share that level of information with the premium users in the community. And then we also provide an additional newsletter on a Friday. And we also provide webinar access where we invite speakers to speak on topics ranging from career development, personal finance, investing, managing your money, how to understand the pay slip, how to get ahead in corporate, how to get promoted. So conversations in that space. And it's a monthly payment that you would pay per month. And if you want to access webinars only, we sell tickets on Eventbrite. So that's the Careerguard Power Circle, which is the premium version. But the actual newsletter is just the Careerguard, which is free. It will always be free. It's a Sunday newsletter. So the Sunday newsletter is all about careers and a little bit on personal finance. And myself, Anuki Miller, which is my co-founder, we run the Careerguard, and we also run a blog site called Ambitious Investor, which is a blog which is personal finance only. And that one only generates income via, affiliate program. So it's free. So a lot of our content is free, the free module, where we have affiliates that we partner with, and we sell ad space as well, which I know you'll be familiar with as a podcast owner. So we ambitiousinvestor.com, check it out. If you want to read a review on finance apps and different topics on personal finance, and the Careerguard, which is a newsletter. And if you want additional support, you upgrade to the premium service.
Yeah, thank you for that. And in terms of things like side hustles, because this is something that's come up a lot as well in the last 4 to 5 years. So, someone has a job, whether it's PAYE or they're contractor, but they're looking to make that a little bit extra. What would be your advice in terms of finding the perfect side hustle?
Good question. So what I would say is, first you need to determine what is the purpose of the side hustle that you're doing. Is it to fulfill a passion? Is it a passion that you just want to spend more time doing? Let's say, for example, you have an interest in photography. Is it because you just want to take some really good pictures or videos, for example? Because you could easily buy a camera and then start doing wedding photography, as an example. Or drone shots for real estate developments. So first, what I'd say is identify what is it the reason you're doing it for. Is it to make more money? Is it to explore a passion? Is it to develop your creativity side? What is it? If it's purely for money, then what I would say is try and do something that you already have experience in, and you already have like maybe an unfair advantage in. If you, for example, are a consultant, or you're, for example, a project manager, you could actually be a freelance project manager for small businesses. And with your already existing skill set, you could go and start providing project management experience. I have a friend who is a project manager. She works for a big organization. She's ex-Deloitte, but she's also provided project management to brands like A Jewelers, where it's a it's a lucrative business. They're doing really well, A Jewelers. They're based in Hatton Garden, and she has sold project management to them, as a side gig. So without mentioning her name, just working a full-time job as a project manager, reaching out to a business, forming a relationship with them and said, look, I realize that you're growing on social media rapidly and you're rolling out new products and, an app. Do you need help with the management and rollout of this app? I can sell you project management services. She's done that and she's made really good money from it. Let's say you're a marketer. You could be working as a full-time web designer or marketer. What I would say, if you just want to make money as a website designer or you're a graphic designer working for a company, go and register on Fiverr.com, go and register on Upwork.com, go on and register on freelancer.com, vetted.com, which is a new one. I would go on all of the freelance platforms and I would start applying for jobs that are posted if you just want to make money and you already have a skill. So if you already have a high income skill, coding, videography, filming, if you just want to make money, go and do whatever you already have experience in, because you can make a lot of money doing that. And that will allow you to make an additional £1,000 plus a month if you're smart and you just, market your services a little bit. And then if you just want to explore your passions and with a view of that leading to money, go and invest in something that you're interested in. As I mentioned, buying a camera, that for me, I bought a camera that's led to me doing brand deals with big brands. I done one recently with Finimize. Finimize is quite big in the UK. And I actually originally started to film content because I said, my brain is so legal and it's always so logical and it's black and white. And I actually want to explore creativity and editing. And what happened was I bought a camera and paid for Final Cut Pro, started to make content, post it on YouTube, started to create content for TikTok. And now it's led to loads of different brand deals, either UGC and some that are also on my page, which, I post as well, where I have brand deals. So what I'll say for anyone exploring a side hustle, work out why you're doing it. Is it just money? If it's just money, follow the advice I just mentioned. If it's just to explore a passion with a view of eventually maybe it turning into money and making money from it, yeah, go for it. What I would also say is just focus on your time management as well, and try not to, spread yourself too thin without having, someone you can delegate things to, because that's quite important. I have, technically my newsletter brand is a side hustle, but I operationally oversee what's going on. So the newsletter, as an example, today, I didn't write it. It was written by Anuki. He asked me to review it. I reviewed it on my phone. I said I'm happy with it. He clicked publish. No, he clicked schedule. He scheduled it. I haven't done anything. I've invested probably an hour or two this week, but we are also currently negotiating brand deals for the newsletter. We had an ad go in there this week and we are negotiating other ads. So it's a lot of email correspondence that I do. It doesn't take much time. Very similar with the blog site, So what I'd say is if you're a one-man band starting a side hustle, also take into consideration the time it will take, because you need to, look at the effort to reward ratio. If you're investing 16, 20 hours in something and you're only making £200, is it worth your time? So yeah, I would definitely say look into time management, your purpose, why you're doing it, and if you could just leverage your existing skills and make money as a freelancer.
I think for those that have who are leveraging their existing skills, I think that's where they struggle. Like, especially if you come from a job, you looked on CV Library or whatever, you found a job, brilliant. But then when you're looking for clients, I know that you mentioned networking earlier. Like sometimes you have to be having, laughing at jokes that aren't that funny. How would you tell people to what's the best way for them to find clients apart from like the Fiverr, the Upwork stuff, but to find clients, let's say within an industry, because some industries are quite niche.
Yeah, I mean, there's different ways that you can find clients. A great way to actually find clients is through your existing network and trying to create a circle of individuals of maybe 5 to 7 people and doing something what we call it's called tap rooting. A lot of network marketers say that, and they just ask their friends, who do they know? Or who do you know? As an example, because I'm pretty sure if I asked you, who do you know in compliance, or who do you know in legal or project management, or who do you think would benefit from careers advice? You might be able to just list 2-3 people off the top of your head. And that, number one, will be the easiest way and easiest path to start working out what type of clients are probably in your existing network, maybe a second degree connection or maybe a third degree connection. So that's the first thing. And then the obvious ones, and I mean, this is just obvious advice that you will hear on any podcast, social media. But social media is powerful. It's just trying to work out what social media tools to use. You might want to build a personal brand on LinkedIn where you post content. Once again, if you don't have the time, you can outsource this for like £50 to £100 a month. You can get some content made and have 2 posts go out a week. You can start build up your following. In 6 months' time, with that consistent posting schedule, you'll find maybe a client or 2 or someone who, becomes a prospective client who's interested in your service. The same for Instagram, same for Facebook, the same for TikTok. I posted on TikTok for 6 months consistently every day, and it led to brand deals, led to people saying, where can I get more information like this? So give it 6 months, stick to building either a personal brand, and a newsletter as an example in your niche, an Instagram page, trying to do one of them. What I would say is don't try and do all of them at the same time. You'll burn yourself out. What I'd say is focus on one and just focus on one only for like 6 months. Like it could be TikTok or it could be LinkedIn, and getting really good and scaling one platform at a time. Especially if you don't have a team. If you got cash to throw at it, then that's a different story. And if you have cash to throw at it, you can also experiment with paid advertising as well, which is also another option. And other than that, the other routes which are typically discussed, and I don't even like saying them because everyone says it, investing SEO, investing a newsletter, investing, ads on Facebook and Google. But these are just obvious things that are just generic advice. What I would say that 100% works, but people take for granted, is reaching out to your friends, your family, and asking them, like, who would benefit. My mom, as an example, and my sister, I've asked them, who do they know who actually need careers advice? And they've already been able to give me 4 people who have reached out and said, oh, I didn't know your son does this. My son needs this, or my daughter needs this. And I've had mothers pay for their son to speak to me. But they only knew my sister or my mom, and then now their son wants me to mentor them or advise them, and the mom actually wants to pay for a session. So you'll be surprised about who's actually in your network, who would benefit from your service.
Okay. And what is in your sort of plan for the future of So Ambitious, Dom? What are the next things that we have that we'll see come out of that brand?
Yeah, so in terms of my personal brand, the main focus for me is media sites. So if you're familiar with Red Ventures or Rick Alias owns a lot of websites online that are just, niche specific, like a travel blog, a finance blog, a career blog. I'm quite fascinated in the world of websites and newsletters. So myself and my business partner, we're keen to acquire as well. acquire digital assets and scale existing newsletters, or newsletters that are no longer, running, but they might have 30,000 subscribers with a 70% open rate but a low click-through rate, and the owner's burnt out or wants to sell it. So from myself in the future, you'll see, more blog sites, newsletters, niche specific newsletters. The Careerguard is growing, and we plan to keep pushing that. And potentially a book, maybe one day, potentially, potentially, maybe. Yeah, more workshops, that's for sure. I've got a few things in the pipeline I don't want to speak about yet, but workshops you probably will see in the soon. Other than that, I don't disclose properties and stuff, but that's not really my niche. But I plan to keep investing in the background into stocks and real estate and cryptocurrency and art and other assets which I'm interested in. But I don't really post that online. But yeah, from a career and media and digital marketing, definitely more blogs and newsletters and workshops to help the community.
And can you just remind people how they can find you, where they can find you? I know TikTok, Instagram, but just what are the handles, etc., so everyone's really clear.
Yeah, sure. So please be mindful online. There's a lot of impersonators trying to benefit off my name. So on TikTok, it's So Ambitious Dom with another M. I have to check all the time because I don't have So Ambitious Dom with one M on Instagram. I'm sorry, on TikTok. So on TikTok, it's So Ambitious Dom with an extra M. And at the moment, I've got just under 70K followers. And I'm following 293 people. Please be aware, there's like 9 impersonators on TikTok trying to use my name. So it's quite frustrating. And then on Instagram, So Ambitious Dom with one M, and just under 20K followers. And then on YouTube, I've got about 7K subs, I believe. And it's So Ambitious Dom. So only TikTok has an extra M. I don't really use Twitter. I don't really use Facebook that much. So I only promote TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. They're the best places to find me. And if you're on LinkedIn, my name is Dominic Hay. So Dominic, last name Hay. You'll be able to find me.